"You've always been great at what you do, sweetheart, but Evelyn's the face of the family." I heard that line more times than I could count, always with a soft smile, always with a hand on my shoulder, and always right after I did something they couldn't even understand. Hi, I'm Delilah Hartley, 31 years old, and this is the story of how I got fired from my own family's company by my own parents for showing up 5 minutes late. But don't worry, this isn't a sob story. It's one of those revenge stories where the people who cast you aside live to regret it. And it starts, like a lot of pain does, with family. Growing up, my parents ran our house the same way they ran their business: structured, demanding, and image-obsessed. Hartley Logistics Group was my dad's pride and joy, his legacy, he'd call it, at every holiday dinner like it was some mythical kingdom. Mum handled PR, branding, anything public-facing, and of course so did Evelyn, my sister, their golden child. Blonde, tall, loud laugh, big personality. She was everything I wasn't, and somehow everything they ever seemed to need. I was the quiet one, the tech kid. I didn't make noise, I made systems. While Evelyn posed for local business magazines and gave thought leadership speeches, I was in the back room writing thousands of lines of code to build the software that ran the damn company. Inventory systems, shipment tracking, customer data, route prediction, you name it. I built it. No outside firm, no CTO, just me, pulling all-nighters in a corner office nobody visited, not even on my birthday. And honestly, I didn't mind. I loved the work. It felt like solving a puzzle that nobody else even knew existed. It gave me value, purpose, and a secret, tiny hope that maybe, just maybe, if I built enough, fixed enough, proved myself enough, my parents would finally look at me and say, "That's our daughter." Not just Evelyn's little sister, not the one in IT, ours, but recognition didn't come. Instead, Evelyn got promoted to Executive Director of Brand Strategy. I didn't even know that was a real title. She got flowers, champagne in the boardroom, a full feature in the company newsletter. I got a mention in tiny italics at the bottom of the last page. Special thanks to Delilah Hartley for ongoing system development. That month, I had redesigned the entire internal logistics flow, cut shipment delays by 28%, saved the company over $140,000 in projected late fees. But sure, ongoing development. I remember one time, I think it was Thanksgiving, the whole family gathered in Dad's office for a photo op. We'd just signed our biggest distribution client. Everyone was there, all smiles and wine. Dad held Evelyn close, arm wrapped around her shoulder, said, "I couldn't have done this without my girls." He meant Mom and Evelyn. I was standing right there, holding the printed contract, the one I'd helped negotiate terms for. He didn't look at me. He didn't have to. I wasn't part of his girls, just the girl who made things work behind the curtain. People ask me sometimes, "Why didn't you leave earlier?" It's a fair question. I mean, why stay somewhere that makes you feel invisible? But when it's your family, it's different. Leaving doesn't just feel like quitting a job. It feels like walking away from the last chance to belong. So I stayed. I told myself it'd get better, that maybe they'd see me when the next system launched, or when I saved them from another server crash. Maybe the next fix would finally be the one that fixed me in their eyes. Instead, they gave Evelyn a company car. Then they flew her to Tokyo for a global branding conference. They didn't even ask if I could present remotely. I found out from Instagram. She posted a selfie with the caption, "So honoured to represent the Hartley legacy across continents. Let's go global." Hashtag family business. I sat there, laptop open, fixing a security bug that would have brought the system down in 48 hours, and all I could think was, what legacy? Because as far as I could see, they were building something on my work and writing me out of it. Still, I kept showing up, still built, still debugged, still told myself, be patient, they'll notice. They never did. What they did instead was wait for one rainy Monday morning, a day I'll never forget, because 5 minutes late was all it took for them to finally say out loud what I'd always felt deep down. You don't matter, you never did. And that was the day I stopped trying to be part of their legacy and started building my own. It was raining that Monday morning. Not the kind of drizzle you throw a hood up for, the kind that soaks you straight through the second you step out. Traffic reports lit up my phone, 3-car pile-up on Route 33, emergency crews on the scene, gridlock from exit 12 all the way into downtown. I tapped the steering wheel, hard, then harder. There was no way around it. I was going to be late. Just 5 minutes, maybe 7. And after 9 years of never once missing a deadline, never once calling in sick, skipping holidays, birthdays, even Evelyn's wedding, I thought, they'll understand. I even texted ahead. Stuck in accident traffic. Almost there. No reply. But that wasn't unusual. Dad didn't text. Mom ignored what she didn't like. Evelyn never responded unless it was about her. I parked in my usual spot, heart thudding faster than it should have been. My blouse stuck to my back, wet from the sprint across the lot, and the moment I opened the door, silence. No hum of morning chatter, no typing, just my father, standing by my desk, arms crossed. Mum was beside him, clipboard in hand like this was just another vendor meeting. Behind them, Carol from HR, holding a white envelope. That was the first punch. The second, the envelope already had my name printed on it. Delilah Hartley, termination letter. Dad, Delilah, we've talked about this, he interrupted, tone flat. We expect punctuality. This is not the first time. What? I blinked. Not the first time. They were referring to the one time, 3 months ago, I had a dentist appointment and showed up 2 minutes late. I had emailed in advance, apologised after, stayed 4 hours late to make up for it. That was my repeat offence? Wait, you're seriously... Mum? I turned to her. Her eyes darted away. She didn't speak, didn't even blink. I felt like I wasn't standing in front of my parents. I was standing in front of 2 cold executives who'd already made the decision, like I was a number on a spreadsheet that didn't line up. They didn't mention the 9 years, didn't mention the 70-hour weeks, didn't mention the birthday I missed to fix a holiday shipment blackout that saved them $80,000, didn't mention the fact that I built the system they use every day. They handed me the envelope, asked for my badge, my laptop. No exit interview, no thank you, not even a goodbye, just a cardboard box. I'll be honest, I didn't cry, not there. I was too stunned to cry. You ever been so blindsided, your body forgets how emotions work? But the weirdest part, Evelyn. She was in the hallway, leaning against the wall like she was waiting for this to happen. She didn't smirk, didn't gloat. She just said, "Guess this is what happens when you're not built for pressure." And that was when something inside me cracked. Can I just pause and ask real quick, if this were you, your own parents, firing you from a company you helped build, what would you say to them? I genuinely want to know. Drop it in the comments. Because part of me still doesn't know what I should have said. I just stood there, frozen, and it's been months, and it still burns. Anyway, I packed what little I had, mostly notebooks, a mug that said, "Code like a girl," a sweater I kept for overnights. They didn't even offer me an umbrella. I walked out in the rain, box digging into my side. I remember passing the front desk. Susan, our receptionist, she looked up and froze. Her eyes welled. She whispered, "Delilah, you don't deserve this. We all know it." Then she looked away, because nobody wanted to be next. I got in my car, hands shaking so hard I dropped the keys twice, sat there in the driver's seat, soaked, with my box of memories in my lap. And I started laughing, not because it was funny, because it was surreal. 5 minutes late, and I was erased, like I'd never existed. The laugh turned into sobs before I realised it, and for the first time in years, I said something out loud. They never saw me. Not once. And right then, in that exact moment, I stopped trying to be seen. And I started thinking, what if they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives? I didn't leave that parking lot for almost 2 hours. I just sat there, soaked through, hands still gripping the steering wheel, knuckles white. The cardboard box with my things sat on the passenger seat like a silent joke. It wasn't the firing that broke me, it was the way they did it. The coldness, the quiet agreement between both of them. Not a single word of thanks, not even a blink of hesitation. Like I hadn't poured 9 years of my life into building their company from the inside out. Like I hadn't skipped Christmas to fix their crash server. Like I hadn't lost sleep, lost friendships, lost myself, just trying to be enough. That night, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat either. There was food in the fridge, but I didn't touch it. I just sat on my couch, still in my damp work clothes, scrolling through old emails. Somewhere deep down, I think I was looking for proof that I wasn't crazy, that I did matter at some point, that all those nights sleeping in the office under my desk weren't in my head, but there wasn't anything, not one thank you, no acknowledgement. Just lines like, "Can you push the update sooner? Need this fixed by end of day. Have Evelyn review before finalising." Evelyn didn't even know how to log into the system without me walking her through it. My phone buzzed once, a message from my mum. "Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. You know how important structure is." Structure? I built the structure. Every part of that company was standing on the foundation I laid. I didn't reply. A day passed, then 2. Nobody else reached out. No call from Dad, no apology, no, "let's talk about this," just silence. Like I'd died. And they'd moved on. By the end of the week, I was down to instant ramen and stale crackers. I had savings, but not much. I always assumed I was safe, that the family business meant security. I never imagined needing a backup plan from my own blood. Rent was due in 10 days. I didn't have health insurance anymore. I couldn't even get unemployment because technically they'd listed me as ineligible for rehire due to misconduct. Misconduct? I laughed so hard I nearly choked. The kind of laugh that turns into tears so fast you don't even feel the shift. Just pain. Waves of it, crashing into me over and over. It's strange what you do when you hit bottom. You stop pretending. You stop trying to explain yourself. And at some point, in the middle of that darkness, I opened my old laptop, not the company-issued one, the one I'd bought myself back in college. Scratched up, stickers peeling. I don't even know why I did it. Habit, maybe. Desperation. Muscle memory from the years I spent pouring everything into my code. I clicked through some old project folders, back before Hartley Logistics was even incorporated. Just me and a whiteboard and long nights with too much coffee and a dream that I could prove my worth with code. That's when I found the folder. Core System V1. The first build, my notes, the architecture diagrams, source files, debug logs. I blinked, scrolled through the timestamps. These were created before the company existed, before we had official contracts, before NDAs, before I ever signed a single paper. I checked again. There was no IP agreement, nothing that assigned the ownership of this system to the company. It was just mine. I had written every line. I had designed every flow. They never claimed it in writing. I sat there, heart racing. Do you know what that means? It means they were still using something they never owned. They'd fired me, cut me out of the company, locked me out of their lives. But every shipment, every customer dashboard, every internal report was running on my system. And I still owned it. I didn't scream, didn't laugh, didn't jump up and down. I just sat back, stared at the screen and whispered, "You erased me, but you forgot who wrote the code." And right then, something changed in me. The grief didn't vanish, but it got quiet. The shame? It stopped clawing at my chest. All I felt was clarity. Because I realized something. I don't have to destroy them. They're already standing on stolen ground. And all I have to do is take back what's mine. The next morning I booked a consultation with a tech lawyer. I was nervous. This whole thing, contracts, ownership, cease and desist letters, it was way out of my comfort zone. I wrote code, not legal briefs, but something inside me said, you can't just walk away from this. Her name was Nadia Flores, sharp, calm, the kind of person who doesn't say more than she needs to, but every word cuts clean. I showed her everything, source code dates, build logs, backups on my old hard drives, emails I'd sent to Dad about the new warehouse system back when we still worked out of a converted auto shop. When I finished, I sat there, hands in my lap, waiting to hear I'd made it all up, that I was overreacting. Instead, she leaned back, looked me in the eye and said, Miss Hartley, you own this. I blinked. What do you mean? I mean, there is no document transferring intellectual property rights. What you wrote, what they're still using, it legally belongs to you. I went quiet. All those years, all those long nights, feeling like I was worthless, invisible, disposable. Turns out I'd been holding the most valuable asset in that company the entire time, and they didn't even know. The next few days were a blur. Nadia drafted the cease and desist. It was airtight, legal but devastating. It stated clearly, use of core system or any derivative work created by Delilah Hartley must cease immediately, unless licensed under new terms. A license they'd never signed, a contract they never offered, a system they thought they owned, but never did. I sent the letter through her firm on a Friday afternoon. By Monday morning the panic started. I didn't take the system down. I didn't sabotage it. That's not who I am. But I knew exactly how fragile it was without maintenance, without the one person who actually understood the architecture. By noon, 3 warehouse locations were locked out of inventory logs. Routing collapsed. Orders stalled. Customer complaints piled up. The logistics board turned red across the dashboard. And guess who wasn't there to fix it? I heard from Carol. Remember HR Carol? She DM'd me on LinkedIn. Not officially, of course, just, things are not great here, and no one knows what to do. Thought you should know. I didn't respond. Instead, I focused on building, not just revenge, something better, something mine. I dusted off a half-finished notebook I'd once scribbled business ideas in, an optimized logistics tool, but for small and mid-sized businesses. No bloated dashboard, no confusing layers, just clean, efficient, human-focused tech. I called it Atlas Route. And it wasn't just software. It was everything I'd learnt the hard way, coded with clarity, purpose, and care. I started small. One of our old clients, an organic food distributor, had always hated the Hartley system. Too clunky, no personalisation. I offered them a test version of Atlas Route, customised their dashboard in 48 hours. Fixed issues they'd been complaining about for 2 years. They were sold. Word spread fast. A second client reached out, then a third. Within 6 weeks, 3 of Hartley Logistics' largest clients had quietly dropped them and signed with me. No press, no statements, just gone. I didn't gloat, didn't post cryptic tweets or share viral threads, but I knew they noticed. Because 2 weeks later I got an email. Subject line, "Can we talk?" I stared at it. It was from my father. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. For a moment the old instinct kicked in. Respond. Be respectful, keep the peace. But then I thought about that day, him standing there firing me like a stranger, Mom not saying a word, Evelyn smirking down the hallway, and I closed the laptop. Later that night I got another message, this time from a name I hadn't seen in a long time, Evelyn. Her message? If you care at all about this family, you'll stop what you're doing, you've made your point. That was the moment it hit me. They still didn't get it. To them, this was about a grudge. To me, this was about being erased, about building something beautiful, meaningful, and being told over and over that it didn't matter. They thought I was trying to destroy them. But the truth is, they were destroying themselves. All I did was step aside. When I launched Atlas Route, I didn't expect it to take off like wildfire. I honestly thought I'd get maybe 1 or 2 small clients, enough to keep the lights on, and maybe buy something other than instant noodles. But people were watching. People who remembered me. People who'd sat through meetings where I explained features no one else could even pronounce. And suddenly I wasn't Delilah, the quiet tech girl behind the scenes. I was Delilah Hartley, the one who built the thing that worked, then got fired for being 5 minutes late. Turns out, that kind of story spreads fast. By the end of the 3rd month, my calendar was full. I wasn't sleeping much, but it didn't feel like before. It wasn't burnout, it was momentum. Every hour I put in was mine. Every client win was a reminder you were never the problem. One day I opened LinkedIn and saw a post from someone I used to work with, a junior analyst from my old team. It said, "Working with at Delilah Hartley was the best part of my time at Hartley. She made things easier for everyone. Still can't believe what they did to her." I didn't expect it to go viral. But it did. Within days, comments started flooding in. Old colleagues, clients, even competitors, and then journalists. One email stood out. From Michelle Rayner, an investigative tech reporter who specialized in family-run companies and startup collapse stories. Her subject line? Fired by her parents, the quiet woman behind the code that built a company. I hesitated. My instinct was to keep my head down, stay focused, stay safe. But something inside me whispered, this isn't about revenge anymore. It's about truth. So I agreed to meet her. Michelle didn't spin the story. She didn't dramatize it. She just told the truth. How a woman spent 9 years building the backbone of a multi-million-dollar logistics company. How she was erased without warning by her own parents. How she rebuilt from the ground up and quietly took back their biggest clients by being better. The article went live on a Monday morning. By lunchtime it was trending, not just on tech Twitter, everywhere. Suddenly, people weren't just reading my story, they were sharing their own. I was pushed out of the company I helped create. My dad gave my brother the promotion I trained him for. My family made me feel invisible until I walked away. I read every single comment, and with every word I felt lighter. Because for the first time, I wasn't just being seen, I was being understood. Hartley Logistics responded 2 days later. A press release posted on their corporate site. It read like a bad apology disguised as a PR strategy. We acknowledge recent media coverage and want to clarify that all decisions were made in accordance with company policy. While we regret any personal hurt, we remain committed to upholding professional standards. No mention of my name, no acknowledgement of my work, no ownership of what they'd done, just spin. Then came the staff leaks. Anonymous employees started posting screenshots, internal emails showing chaos, warehouse outages, client losses, executive finger-pointing, and worst of all, a note from Evelyn, sent company-wide, blaming unauthorized system interference and disloyal former staff. That one really set people off. The backlash was immediate. Hashtag Team Delilah started trending. Clients began cutting ties publicly. One mid-sized retailer tweeted, "If your company fires the brains behind your system, then blames her when it breaks. You don't deserve our business." I didn't say a word online. I didn't need to. The truth had already done its job. But privately, I felt everything. Shock, relief, sadness, and a strange ache that I couldn't quite place, because even though I was winning, they were still my parents. One night I found myself scrolling through old photos, a birthday party. I was maybe 10. Evelyn had a tiara. I had frosting on my face and a half-open robotics kit on my lap. Dad had his arm around her. Mum held the cake. I was in the corner of the frame. I don't think they even knew I was in that shot. And that was the ache. I wasn't missing them. I was mourning the version of me that still believed I could ever be enough for them. A week later, I got invited to speak at a tech conference. The panel was called Founders Who Were Forgotten Until They Took It All Back. I didn't hesitate. I walked onto that stage in a black suit I bought with my first Atlas Root paycheck. The lights were bright, but the room was warmer than I expected. I told my story. No theatrics, no bitterness, just the facts. And when I finished, I said, I used to think I needed my family to see me to know I mattered. But the truth is, you only stay invisible if you believe them. The day they fired me, I thought it was the end. It wasn't. It was the day I stopped waiting for permission and started giving it to myself. When I stepped off stage, I got a standing ovation, but what really got me? A woman in her 50s stopped me in the hallway after. She said, "My daughter's in tech. Quiet girl, brilliant. I think I've been more like your mum than I want to admit." Her voice cracked. "But hearing your story, I want to do better. I will." That was the moment I realized this wasn't just my story anymore. It was a mirror, a warning, a path out for people who thought they were stuck being someone else's footnote forever. The email came on a Thursday evening. Subject: Let's talk. From Gregory, HartleyLogistics.com. No hi Delilah, no hope you're well, just 3 lines. We believe there is a way to resolve this. Please let us take you to dinner. Your mother and I would like to discuss a potential partnership. I stared at it for a long time. Then I closed my laptop. I didn't answer. Not that night. I thought maybe I wouldn't reply at all. But then I remembered something my therapist once told me. Closure doesn't always come from them. Sometimes it comes from you standing in the room and choosing not to shrink. So I said yes, not because I wanted to reconcile, but because I needed to look them in the eye and not flinch. We met at one of those upscale restaurants downtown, the kind with white tablecloths and jazz, playing just loud enough to distract from awkward silences. They were already seated when I walked in. Dad stood, extended a hand. I didn't take it. Mom gave a smile so tight it looked like it hurt. Evelyn wasn't there. For once, they weren't trying to put on a show. No PR smiles, just aging parents who looked like the weight of the last 6 months had settled into their shoulders. The waiter came, offered drinks. I asked for water. No appetizers, no small talk. I cut straight to it. "So, what exactly is it you want?" Dad cleared his throat, pulled out a folder from his briefcase. Inside was a printed contract, buyout terms. They were offering to purchase a full license of Atlas Root's back-end engine, with a generous upfront payment, equity stake, ongoing royalties. Mum chimed in softly. "You've built something incredible, sweetheart, and we think it's time we work together again." I looked at her. This woman who'd once watched me cry as I packed my things into a box and said nothing. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned to Dad. "You fired me for being 5 minutes late, after 9 years, and you said nothing." He looked away. "I made a mistake." "No," I corrected. "You made a choice." They said the company was struggling, that Atlas Root had changed the market, that clients were walking away and they were running out of time. They said it wasn't personal, that it was just business. And that's when I knew. They still didn't get it. "You know," I said, "for a long time I thought all I wanted was to be seen by you. But I was wrong. What I wanted was to matter to you, not as a tool, not as a name on a patent, as your daughter." Mum's eyes glossed over. Dad just looked tired. "You taught me loyalty was everything. that showing up mattered, that family meant sacrifice. So I did all of it. I worked, I gave, I disappeared. I became invisible for you. I leaned back, calm, steady. But the thing about being invisible is eventually you realize they're never going to look for you, so you have to show up for yourself. I slid the folder back across the table. I'm not selling you anything. You're welcome to rebuild your own system or find someone else. But this, what I've built, this doesn't go back to you. They sat there in silence. The music kept playing. The clink of cutlery filled the air. And then Dad asked, "So that's it?" I nodded. "That's it." I stood, picked up my coat, and as I walked away, I said without turning back, "You taught me what family means and what it doesn't. I'm just finally choosing the definition that doesn't hurt." Outside, the night air was sharp. I inhaled it like it was the first breath I'd taken in years. No one followed me. No one begged. And for the first time, I didn't want them to. A week later, I spoke at another conference. This one was different, smaller, local. Full of young women trying to start in tech, looking for space in rooms they were never invited into. One of them asked me during the Q&A, if you could go back to the moment they fired you, what would you say to your past self? I thought for a moment, then smiled. I'd say, they're not your end. They're just your beginning in disguise. And now I want to ask you, if it were you, if your parents had done that to you, would you go back to the table? Would you forgive? Or like me? Would you stand up, hold your head high, and choose to move on without them watching? Leave a comment below. I read every line. And you are not alone.